So now when I do businesses, one, I start with money. Two, I already know most of the mistakes to avoid. Three, and this is one of the biggest ones, I hire amazing leadership.
Neil, thank you so much for coming, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here talking to us Brazilians, and hopefully you'll teach a lot about SEO, digital marketing, and also about your life because you're very young and you have a huge amount of success. Hope you share with us, teach a lot, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. I was hoping you were talking a little bit more. It's like a monosyllabic something. Okay. But thank you so much. And Neil, were you in Brazil like for something or did you come to talk with us? What was the...
So I came for, there's a conference called, I think, HSM Plus. I think I'm getting the name right.
HSM, yeah.
Yeah, so I came for that.
Mhm.
And then we have maybe 150, 160, something like that, people that work for us in
Wow.
Brazil, a lot of them in Sao Paulo. So also came to meet the team because I haven't come here until COVID started.
Wow.
But before that, I used to come sometimes 6 times a year.
Wow. 6 times a year. And you usually came here because you had business here.
Yes, because we do the marketing for a lot of the large corporations in Brazil. And there's also a lot of American companies that expand into Latin America.
Okay.
So we help them with their expansion into countries like Brazil.
Okay, that's cool because you can reduce their CAC coming here, and maybe they're not very used to new markets. So it's a good way of having some new clients, right? Using SEO. And let me tell you how I first met you before we
Okay.
talk. I'm young, I think. I have 32 years old. I have 32 years here.
Oh, you're
I
young.
am, yeah, I am
You're young.
32. I'm young. And I produce content a lot about marketing, business, and finance. And maybe 10 years ago, not 10 years ago, but 13 years ago, I was a financial advisor. And later, I started producing content in the internet. And I was partner of Hiko. Hiko?
Yeah, we used to do the marketing. Hiko, and then it turned
Yes.
into Hiko XP, right?
Yes. Then XP bought Hiko from Monica that you met there.
Yeah.
And I was a partner of Hiko. And when I was partnering and trying to help clients invest through Hiko, I knew your job for the first time. And I wasn't very good at SEO. So you were one of our first and bigger references here in Brazil. And I learned a lot. So thank you so much in person.
Oh, thank you.
And this was the first time I met you. And tell me a bit more about your business, because you're not from Brazil. You have a business here. How your business operates around the world?
Sure. So we're in quite a few countries. We have we're getting close to 800 people globally. I don't know how many will be at the end of next year, but we just added Germany. We're now soon we're going to be expanding into France, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. So we're adding in 4 more countries.
Wow.
But we have an ad agency called NP Digital. So think of some of the biggest publicly traded companies, that are traded on the stock market. We help them with their marketing globally. See, the way it came about Brazil was years and years ago, there was a company called Hotmart that invited me to speak at their conference.
Yes.
And when I spoke at the conference, I saw so much potential in the people here in Brazil and the companies in Brazil. And I was just like, this is going to be a massive country for business. And I remember I met up with a gentleman named Andres Steves who created BTG Pactual. And during my meeting with him, we were sitting down and he was speaking to me and he was just like, Neil, Brazil's like the wild, wild west. This is in its early stages like it was in America. There's just tons and tons of opportunity. And my meeting with him was long. I think it lasted almost 2-3 hours.
Wow.
And we were just there was no purpose. We were just talking about life and business and um, investing and where I put some of my money.
People
And
should do it more often, right?
yes, they should. And from there, I was just like, you know what? We need to expand into Brazil. So we expanded into Brazil. We first started in Brazil helping our American companies that
Mhm.
were publicly traded expand into here. And then we started working with a lot of the large companies here in Brazil, and many of them are publicly traded as well.
Okay, but you have 800 employees nowadays. When did you start your company?
Uh,
Because
the,
you said how you started here in Brazil, but when did you start your company, the first employee and all of that?
the first employee, believe it or not, was 5 years ago. But in
Wow.
Brazil, Marink, who's sitting in front of us, he's just like, I want to set up operations for you in Brazil. We didn't have a company at the time.
Mhm.
And I said, go for it. Let's start it off here. But we officially started in the US 5 years ago, technically 5 years and 1 month. So October was our 5 year anniversary.
Wow. And how did you become so famous? I mean, you use it to produce content like way before creating your company, right?
I
Or am
did.
I?
No, no, you're right, but I'm not famous. You're considered famous.
No, you are famous for us. You have a lot of authority, and you have like I asked a lot of people here in the office if they knew you because you're coming today, and all of my leaders and head of business knew you. So maybe
It,
you
it's mainly with
yes.
executives, business owners,
Mhm.
CEOs. That is the majority of the people that know me, at least in Brazil. Um, but yeah, no, it's
Mhm.
before that. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, just like you did
Mhm.
businesses and many different things before this. Like you mentioned, you're an investment advisor, right?
Yes.
So I had quite a few software companies. This is my latest startup. Some were successful, some did really, really well, some did very poorly. But the overall, the ones that did well made up
Yes.
for everything. It's just like investing. You pick one stock,
Mhm.
something can go wrong and you can lose money. You pick a handful,
Mhm.
and if you really study what you're investing in, you pick the right ones, overall, you should do good in the long run.
Yes. That's the thing about entrepreneurship. You don't need to like get everything right. You just need one good
Yes.
thing you've done correctly, and it's good for you. But you told me some of your business went poorly. I mean,
So,
can you tell us the story of a poorly received company from the audience or the customer
yeah.
perspective?
So everyone is probably familiar with Amazon AWS, cloud
Yes.
computing, right? You put a website, it goes into the cloud or also on servers all around the world. And these are shared resources that many different people can use.
Mhm.
Because years ago, the way servers worked was you guys or I would or Itayu would have one server when they're starting off, but they may not use all the space, but they're paying for it.
Mhm.
It was very inefficient. So years and years ago, I met a group of people and I funded over $1 million. This is probably 18 years ago. So
Mhm.
back then, $1 million was more, right?
A
So,
lot.
uh, so I spent $1 million into building a cloud computing company before AWS was even starting, and spent quite a bit of money, and it didn't work out. We had the right idea. Look how big AWS is
Mm.
from Amazon. It's a potentially half a trillion, maybe even $1 trillion business, right? Just the AWS portion. And when you look at that, the reason our business didn't work out well was great idea, poor execution. It was the wrong people who weren't subject matter experts. It's like you give people investment advice because you truly understand investing. You may be young, but you're expert in investing and you know it well because you've been doing it for such a long time and you continually learning more and more and fine tuning your craft when it comes to investing
Mhm.
and just getting better at picking, let's say, right companies, right stocks, but you're an expert. So the moment you put money into people who aren't good, it's a big mistake. And that was
Mhm.
one of my earlier mistakes that I made.
Wow. So, getting right idea with poor execution or a poor timing is also being wrong, right?
That's correct.
Yes, a lot of good inventions were created before the market was ready, and they didn't go very well, right? I'm not sure if the market wasn't ready or the execution were poor, but
Or,
uh,
or both.
of both,
Like,
yeah.
look, you're very popular on YouTube. I've seen your videos on YouTube and Instagram. Did you know that Vimeo was before YouTube? They went through a lot of
I didn't
lawsuits,
know.
got bloody, didn't do well. It started with the V. I'm pretty sure it was called Vimeo, but it was based out of San Diego, this entrepreneur I met. And I'm pretty sure the name started with the V, but I think it was called Vimeo. He ended up having tons of lawsuits, getting bloody. Great idea is the same concept as YouTube.
Hmm.
But after he was done with all the legal troubles and poor execution, YouTube came out executed him. They didn't have to deal with the legal issues, and boom, they blew up.
Let me ask you something. Why did you think your business became successful? Like, what are the pillars that made it this way and others didn't?
So now when I create businesses, is it's like almost like I'm cheating
Really? Why?
because I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years
Uh-huh.
and I have money. So when I started this current business, I put $5 million of my own money from day one. And then I bought more companies. And then, like let's say in February, I spent another $8.6 million of my own money. I, I'm not starting from scratch. I have money at this point, so it makes it easier. And the money is my money. So I don't have to go to an investor or a board meeting
And
and
pitch them.
I do whatever I want, right? So having capital just allows you to move so much faster and be more aggressive. So that's one.
Mhm.
Two, I've been doing this long enough. When you started doing investment advice, I bet you're much better now than you were 10 years ago. You've learned a lot, right?
Yeah, a lot.
So it's the same thing. When I first started as an entrepreneur 20 years ago, I made so many mistakes. I'm not the smartest person. But over time, the reason I got to where I am today is I learned from my mistakes. See, I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to Yale or Stanford or MIT. But the way I learned how to become successful is I made so many mistakes. Eventually, I said, if I don't make that same mistake over and over again and I learn from it,
Mhm.
then the things I will be focusing on would be the things you should be doing because I've already made most of the mistakes. So now when I do businesses, one, I start with money. Two, I already know most of the mistakes to avoid. Three, and this is one of the biggest ones, I hire amazing leadership. So I'll put in CEOs and managers and operations people from my industry who have been part of other successful companies before. Like the CEO I put in place for this current company, his name is Mike Gullickson. He was a president at a company called iProspect, which was owned by Dentsu, which is a publicly traded Japanese conglomerate. I think they have 60, 70,000 employees, maybe.
Mhm.
And the division he ran as a president had, I think, close to 5,000 employees. So he already ran a competitor who was bigger.
Mhm.
So I will go and get amazing people from my industry who are already very successful and give them a lot of money to join my company. And
Uh-huh.
when I mean he was successful, not only did he run a 5,000 plus company, before that, he ran a company in the same space that sold for over $50 million. Before that, he was the head of sales and operations for a company that sold to Hearst, I believe, for $400 million. This is 10 plus years ago. So if you keep hiring people who have a track record of being successful in your space, you're much more likely to succeed.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that it's unfair because it kind of is. But I also saw a lot of good entrepreneurs with a lot of money, some of them billionaires, that went bankrupt from
Yes.
night to day. And in your opinion, and you probably knew some guys that fit this perfect example, but what do you think makes you uh, confident about not doing these mistakes that some may be wealthier, more intelligent, with more results than you maybe got wrong.
So entrepreneurship is a little bit about dreaming and believing in yourself.
Hmm.
So I'm crazy. And here's what I mean by crazy. I think I can do anything.
Mhm.
And I know that's not true. I'm not good at playing soccer like Neymar.
Mhm.
I will never be as good as him or Messi or Ronaldo. I don't have that ability. But in business, I think I'm one of the best. Not one of the best like a Elon Musk, but I'm talking about within my space.
Mhm.
Okay, so my space is marketing, right? I'm not good like Elon Musk sending rockets into space. I believe he's much better than me. But in the marketing vertical, I believe I'm one of the best. A little bit of arrogance, but that's just my
Mhm.
belief. And because I believe in myself and I continually try to learn more and more and I never stop, that's why I'm super confident.
Mhm.
See, you mentioned you're 32, correct?
Yeah.
If you're 32, I'm 37, or if you were 19, I don't care what age you are. I believe I can always learn from someone. So if you worked at, Empiricos or Rico and you were just starting out and you were telling me, Neil, you can do this better, you can do that better, I would learn. And being open minded and always learning from people doesn't matter how much money they have, but being open to learn from anyone has really helped me succeed because it allows you to get way more ideas. And some of the best ideas come from young people who don't have a proven track record.
Yes, yes. Something I'm thinking a lot on the past recent days is that uh, I think entrepreneurs should uh, really focus on like finding their talent somehow, because I feel you are talented in marketing and talented with hard work. The hustling part of it makes your success very big and makes you confident, even though you know a lot of people are very good in marketing also, because maybe you found your talent. Do you feel talented in the marketing area?
I do. So I'm a big believer that a lot of people who are young who want to be entrepreneurs, what they do is they go and start their own business.
Hmm.
I actually believe they should try to do two things first. One, work for companies like yours
Hmm.
because they can learn a lot of skills. They can learn how you do marketing. They can learn how you do fulfillment. They can learn how you do customer success. They can learn how you do operations. These are
Hmm.
all valuable skill sets. Two, I also recommend that they try out a lot of different things.
Hmm.
See, it's really hard to figure out what you're talented on unless you try a lot of things and then you'll figure out, oh, I like this and I'm good at this. Because you need to not only be talented at it, but you also have to like it. Because if you don't like it, you won't put in the hours. See, you're talented, but if you had talent and you hated what you're doing, you wouldn't put in all these hours.
Hmm.
Because you love what you're doing and you're talented, that is why your company is successful. You need both of those.
Hmm.
And then the first thing I mentioned is you should work for companies like yours or others where you can learn a lot from, even if it's only for a year or two. You can just learn so much versus doing everything on your own and making so many mistakes.
Yes. I usually feel that you can be talented in something and don't love it, but I feel the odds are more likely to uh, show you like you love the area you're talented in, because everybody says you're good at it and it's
Yep.
easier, right? But see, a curiosity of my life is when I started producing content, I didn't start producing a video. I started with a blog called O Primo Rico, right here in Brazil. And I was producing a lot about previdência privada. It's a kind of investment here in Brazil. And I started producing this blog, and it really took like 1 to 2 years to start to give me some results. But people think I started as a YouTuber or something, producing content, like, uh, and all the people that knows you, and I asked them proactively what you were known for. They told me it was because of SEO,
Yeah.
and this is something I really studied very hard on my initial days in the internet. Can you give us like a definition of SEO?
So SEO stands for search engine optimization.
Yes.
Whenever you do a search on Google, at the top, you see the paid results. It says sponsored or
Hmm.
advertising. And then underneath, you see the results that Google's algorithm puts there for free. So to get your website there, you have to do something called SEO, or also called search engine optimization. You have to put in keywords in your website, write content related to those terms. You have to make sure your website loads fast. You have to build content that's popular, gets social shares, gets other websites to link to yours. You have to optimize your code so that way a search engine can understand and read your code, right? These are all factors that go into SEO. But they say there's over 200 factors in Google's algorithm, to give you an idea.